Hello, travelers, and welcome to Reach the World's Explorer program. For over 20 years, Reach the World has inspired youth to become curious, confident, and compassionate global citizens through virtual exchange. My name is Tim, and I am so glad you're joining us for today's live stream event. Do you think you would have what it takes to row across the entire Atlantic Ocean? Today, we're going to be meeting 4 Royal Navy submariners who are just about to do that. They're going to cast off from the Canary Islands shortly in just a few days, and over the course of more than a month, row their way over 3,000 miles to the Caribbean island of Antigua. It's a huge challenge, and this HMS Oardacious Team, as they're known, are joining us from La Gomera, Spain today to introduce themselves, their incredible inspiration for taking on this quest, and to preview the epic journey to come. But before we meet them, I want to give a special welcome to the teachers and students around the world who are joining us live today or watching a recording of this event after it happened. For our live audience, you can feel free to use the YouTube chat bar to let us know you're here, where you're joining from, and of course to share any questions you have for the HMS Oardacious Team as we go. We'll take about 30 minutes. Their families are on their way to say goodbye to them from Spain, so we can't take up too much time. I feel very, very lucky that these 4 gentlemen have joined us today live from Spain. It's time to embark on this virtual exchange expedition with the HMS Oardacious Team. Let's give a warm Reach the World welcome to Lieutenant Commander Caleb, Lieutenant Commander Hugo, Chief Petty Officer John, and Lieutenant Commander Tom. Let's bring them all onto the live stream. Hey guys.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi guys.
It is fantastic to have you with us here today. Thank you so much. I know you have a million things you're doing to prepare for your transatlantic row, but this is such a great opportunity for us to meet you and hear about what your inspiration is for taking on this challenge. So I thought maybe we would start with Caleb, who I believe is the skipper of HMS Oardacious, and you can sort of kick us off about who you are, what you're about to do, and why you're doing it. Caleb, go ahead.
So we are 4 Royal Navy Submariners. So that's members of the Royal Navy, part of British military forces, and we work on submarines. So as a background, all of us have spent a lot of time away under the seas on submarines, working on many different types of missions, operations, and protection goals. So we have taken on a challenge that started over 4 years ago in the end of 2018. And has grown since then. So the original challenge, me and Hugo put together a goal, a vision to be able to row across the Atlantic Ocean as part of the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic campaign. That happened back in 2019, and our real goal was to go out originally to raise awareness for mental health in the submarine community, somewhere we thought was lacking and needed some support at the time. We managed to establish a foundation to be able to do that, working with our charity, the Royal Navy Royal Marines charity. But through doing that, we got the opportunity to expand beyond that. We rowed across the Atlantic in 2019, which was a highly successful crossing. We met weird and wonderful people, great friends that we still cherish to this day. But we ended up in the opportunity, especially through with what went on with COVID and how up in the air stuff was. Our original plan went out the window of selling the boat and moving on. And now we've established a recurring campaign so that our challenge every year is to get 4 new submariners out on the boat, rowing across the ocean and raising awareness for various causes. Like I said, we started with mental health and well-being in our community, but have expanded to beyond that to work with a lot of other organizations to be able to do a lot of good. One thing that we've really leaned in, because from our experience in 2019, we went across the Atlantic and we saw just how much plastic and debris there was in the ocean, and it really made us upset at the time. So we thought we would do what we can to promote sustainable sustainable and good use of the oceans and protection of the oceans. As well as that, we've worked with a number of organisations, much like Reach the World, to engage with youth, to inspire and encourage people to get out there and really do something exciting. So the race that we're doing is a 3,000-mile rowing race, which is completely unsupported. So we'll be on a 27-foot boat, which is a bit like a small yacht, except we've got no sails and we can't use the wind to help us. We've just got the four of us, 3 rowing positions and 3 sets of oars that we can use at a maximum to be able to row and really push ourselves across the ocean. We will get pushed a bit along by the wind and the waves, hopefully. I say hopefully, all of my team hopefully have their fingers crossed. But we're hopefully able to get across in about 35 to 40 days, so over a month. So we're going to be away over Christmas, we're going to be away over New Year, and we're not going to be getting back into Antigua until about halfway through next month, ideally. It could take much longer. We're in a pretty good place because we're rowing across with 4 of us. Some of the other teams that go out will be solo, so by themselves, and they could take as much as 60 days, so 2 months. Whilst we're out there, we always need to be rowing. So for that whole 35, 40 days, at least one of us, if not 2 of us, is going to be rowing at every minute. So all through your Christmas day, when you're sat there having lots of food and relaxing, every single point of that, from when you went to sleep waiting for Santa to drop off the presents until asleep the day after, one of us will have been, 2 of us hopefully will have been rowing for that time. So what we'll do is 2 hours of rowing, and then we'll swap over. So each of us have a pair, we're paired up, and we'll swap with the opposite one of our pair, and then we'll have 2 hours to rest while the other one rows. Now, that might seem like a long time to rest, but really that's making all of our food, eating all of our food, cleaning ourselves up, keeping ourselves safe and healthy and hygienic. So one of the most important things whilst away is keeping ourselves clean, stopping ourselves getting injured and cuts and sores. And then once we've done all that, we'll look after the boat. So we're going to have rolling seats with bearings in them that are going to need changing, regreasing. We're going to have things to look after, things to clean up, things to keep everything around us nice and clean and prevent us getting ill. And then once we've done all of that, we can do a little bit of sleeping. So again, for this whole 35, 40 days, we're only going to have a maximum of an hour and a half sleep at any point in time. So we're always going to be tired and we're always going to be grouchy. So the biggest challenge we have as 4 of us is staying friends. So you can imagine, I'm sure everyone that's listening can think of someone in their family that's a bit grouchy in the mornings when they've just woken up and they haven't had their coffee, and they're a little bit grouchy and a little bit grumpy, and maybe you've got to give them a bit of space until they wake up and get a bit happy. We're going to be grouchy and grumpy the whole time, so we're going to have to put a lot of work in to make sure that we stay friends, that we keep talking to each other, and that we can work together really well to get across.
All right, amazing. Calum, thank you so much for that great overview. I want to ask Hugo maybe to introduce himself. Hugo, you and Calum, as Calum just said, have done this challenge before. You know exactly what is about to happen, and you're doing it again. Are you signed up willingly to row across the ocean again?
Oh, absolutely. And my wife saw my face when I got off the last row, and within a few hours she knew that I would want to do it again. It's the most magnificent experience, and whilst Calum makes a very good point about being grouchy and how hard work it is just the most beautiful place to go. You see wildlife that you could not imagine. We had, on the last crossing, we had humpback whales coming within just a couple meters of the boat, just popping along, these huge sea beasts, just curious and friendly and wanting to check that we were okay, and then going on their own merry way. We saw dolphins, 50, 60 dolphins flying past us, almost like a flock of birds, just like sprinting past us, diving out of the water. And for us, being able to share the ocean with these incredible creatures is such a rewarding aspect of it. And we hope that we go back out this time and we'll meet some of the ocean friends that we made on the last crossing. Who knows, they might even recognize us and come and say hello again. No, it's a wonderful experience, and whilst there's wonderful bits from how we connect with each other as a team, the uniqueness of being out on the water and being connected to the water is really truly very special.
All right, Hugo, thank you so much for that description. You've highlighted what must be some amazing highs to sort of counteract what are some amazing challenges along the way. It seems like a journey of extremes in some ways, amazing experiences and probably amazing hardships as well. John, let's go over to you. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself, what inspired you to take on this challenge? And then I think kids are really curious about HMS Oardacious itself. How did it get its name? What are some sort of unique things about the boat itself?
Okay, yeah. So I'm a chief cadet officer in the Royal Navy. So I work in the same service as Callum and Tom. We were served together. So how this came about is really by the good work that the team did in 2019. So I followed that campaign, and when they announced beginning of 2021 that they were going to, I thought, well, I need to do this. This is something that I would really like to do, not just for the channel itself, but for some of the causes that they support. Things like inspiring young people to do their best, especially in the fields of engineering, which is very close to my heart as an engineer in the services, as well as various mental health charities, and highlighting that to people of all ages, and especially in the armed forces community. So I was always really excited to get involved. I went on some expeditions, so we went rowing around the locks of Scotland, which was really, really nice. Put off. So that was all to the good. Audacious itself, where it got its name from. So we actually have a submarine, HMS Oardacious, spelt the correct way, but we like a pun, so that's why we're spelled OAR, Dacious. The boat itself, what makes it unique, so we use a Rannick 5 manufacturer who has pretty much cornered the market in these ocean rowing boats. Our boat is very fast. We also know how to handle her. We've rowed out on her many times. The good thing about it is that we have a lot of electrical duty. Will always use them. So, for example, not just things like a normal boat might have, like GPS, so knowing where we are in the world, VHF radio, and plotters and various other things. But that we need to be able to make our own water. That takes up a lot of power. So where does all that power come from? We have 2 lithium batteries on board, lithium-ion batteries, and solar panels on the front and back. And if we are very clever with how we operate, then we've got all the power we could want, really.
All right, amazing. Thank you for that description. There are also, and I put a link at the bottom of the screen, there are some great photos of HMS Oardacious. There's some great photos of your preparations, this team's preparations in Spain to get underway in the next few days. So anybody who's interested in seeing this behind the scenes look at what it takes to prepare what is, I think, a very unique looking rowboat. It looks very different than the rowboats that I used like on a pond, in my childhood. It's a very special rowboat for ocean use. And I encourage everyone to go to this link and check out some of the photos and stories that the team has shared through their articles. All right. So last but certainly not least, Tom, how are you? Where are you? You look like you have a cool background.
Thanks, Tim. I'm sat in the hotel just relaxing, trying to prepare myself mentally for Monday. We've had a successful week preparing the boat, doing the final inspections, ready to start the race on Monday. So it's just important to take the time to calm yourself down and relax mentally before such a big event.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you wanted to participate in this adventure?
Yeah, so I was similar to John. I followed the 2019 campaign and I was inspired about watching it and what they achieved, raising money for such good causes. And I knew Hugo professionally, so I spoke to him about it. And when he said he was looking to start a campaign that'll run over multiple years and spread out from just raising money for mental health initiatives to looking into other areas, promoting good culture with sustainability and stuff, I jumped at the chance to get on board. Who wouldn't want to row an ocean? It's a great personal challenge. It'll be a great team building, and we'll come off the other side as best friends, I'm sure. But also in the wider context, we raise money for a lot of good causes and get promoted and do unique opportunities like speaking to yourself today.
Fantastic, Tom. Thank you. I am curious what you have done to train for this. I don't think it's the kind of thing you just kind of show up and think, let's do it. I can row the ocean. What does it take to prepare yourself mentally and physically for a challenge like this?
It's been a long training timeline. I think we've been training as a team together for around 18 months now, so a year and a half. There's a few elements of it. Obviously, physically, you have to be in good physical condition. You're going to be burning 6,000 calories a day rowing, and you need to take in 6,000 calories food, which is 3 times more than the normal person just going around about their day. Our body's going to go through the hardship of being in a saltwater environment for over a month. So any cuts, sores, blisters could easily get infected if they're not looking after. So you have to look at your body physically and try and get in the best state you can there, but also the mental side as well. We've been trying to get to know each other, build our relationships as a team, and working with sports psychologists to try and understand how best to communicate and understand each other when we may be grumpy or we may have had a hard day. We're in a very close environment, so it's good to be able to understand each other. Finally, we've obviously we couldn't get across the ocean without our equipment. So as Callum said, we've got a very unique rowing boat, but that takes care and looking after. We've got lots of equipment on board to keep us safe, with life rafts and communication equipment, so we're able to communicate with our families back at home. But also, it's not just us rowing the ocean. Obviously, we have our support network at home, so it's key to keep them up to date with how we're progressing.
All right. Thank you, Tom, so much. I'm going to bring in a question from the chat in YouTube. Heather is wondering, where do you sleep? How do you get fresh water and food when you're out unsupported in the ocean? And anyone who wants to answer that question is welcome to take that one on.
Yeah, I'll take that one on. So where do we sleep? If you do get to look at the pictures of our boat, we've got a cabin at the front of the boat and at the back. So it humps over at the front and back. That's where we sleep. That's not a nice little mattress in there and everything else. So we've got a sleeping mat in there. But we also have to sleep with our clothes, any spare equipment that won't go in lockers. We've got some medical equipment lining the walls of those cabins. Really anything that we couldn't have tied down on deck in the deck itself goes in there. All our extra snacks, because as Tom says, we have to eat so much. It's really hard to take just in your main meals. So we may snack quite a bit throughout the day as well to keep our energy up. As far as water goes, we have on board emergency drinking water just in case our water maker doesn't work. Our water maker is our main source of water. It is a pump that pushes water for a set of filters, takes all the saltiness out and leaves you with drinking water. It's not quite as tasty and refreshing as what you would get at home, but it's vital for what we're doing our row. Food wise, so again, the 6,000 calories a day. If you could imagine that a fair few places, your normal person would struggle to get through that normally. We use dehydrated meals, so meals in a pouch, and they're usually in foil bags, which we keep in our own deck lockers. And what we try and do is group a whole day's worth of meals in one little bag, and then we could just take them out daily. We'll have water, let them become rehydrated, and then we eat them. We have the option of having them warm, but that requires a jet boil, which we do take. But it's a bit cumbersome to do all the time. So we've always trained eating them cold, and we've all agreed that we'd be quite happy to do that. So that's our tactic for the race. If that saves us any time, I hope so.
Excuse me. That is amazing, John. And I put the link to your virtual exchange homepage back up again, because there's a wonderful picture that you shared with us all of that food and all of that equipment sort of on the ground in front of HMS Oardacious during a period where it seemed like you were like double checking, triple checking gear, maybe reweighing it and restowing it in the boat. And it's amazing to see how much food it takes for 4 men to row. I think it's 1.5 million oar strokes, something wild like that, between where you are and the Caribbean, to feed you and keep you energized for that duration. I have one more question. Maybe Kayla, maybe you'd want to take this one on. This is for one of our 10-year-old viewers. Very common question I'm sure you've heard. How do you use the bathroom? How do you use the toilet when you are on a rowboat in the middle of the ocean?
That is the most common question we get asked, and it doesn't matter who we're talking to, from our youngest supporters up to the most senior corporate sponsors and CEOs that we come across. They all ask exactly the same question: how do we get to the toilet? We are 4 guys, which would make people think that it was a lot easier to do. Let's say go to the toilet in some capacities. However, it's not. The rowing boat, where it's designed to be very light, where it's designed to surf across waves, means it's very unstable unless you're sat nice and still and rowing in. And so if we need to, let's say, go for a number 1, we can't, as blokes, stand up and go over the side, because the whole boat will rock over. We're liable to fall out. And falling out is the real way that it can go wrong. We're harnessed and clipped on at all times, but that's where we might fall in, bang our heads, do an injury. So we'll use little small pots that you might get in hospitals and the like, in a seated position, to go to the toilet in that capacity. If it's something that, let's say, requires a bit more time, and number 2, we do have buckets at the end. So it's not very glamorous, and we make sure to do it behind the other rowers' backs, so we're not watching each other. But what we'll do is we'll use a short-term compostable bag, so the like that you would use to get rid of your food cuttings and bits and bobs like that, and grass cuttings that can be chucked straight into a composter. And we'll line a bucket with that, go into that, and be able to seal it up so it doesn't stink, and sort ourselves out with the bucket. Yeah, it's not the most glamorous, but if we were to take away let's say a more glamorous and more comfortable solution, it would weigh a lot more, it would take up a lot of space, so it would be a lot harder to row.
I think that's one
that's
great example of creative problem solving, that one of many examples that you all have thought through as you prepare for this epic journey. Hugo, I want to pass on some more questions from the chat to you. Will you listen to music as you row, and how? And will you at any point do any fishing while you're out in the ocean?
Very good question. I'll answer your fishing question first. Some teams do bring a fishing rod out, and if they want to take the time to dangle a reel over the end, they might catch something. Actually, from my last crossing, we had so many flying fish landing on our deck that the fishing is almost done for you, and it's almost we spent half our nights getting hit in the face or in the chest by these flying fish jumping out of the water, very surprised to land on our boat, and we did everything we can just to pop them back into the sea and make sure that they were, you know, safely back on their way. As for music, so important. We've downloaded loads and loads of music. We've got music that we all enjoy, that we'll play on a speaker on the deck, and we can sing along together. So maybe some Christmas songs, maybe some classic Disney songs, and just a bit of a sing along. And then some of the music that we personally like, none of the other rowers like, and we will just listen to that through our headphones, and not force our teammates to endure that. We'll listen to audiobooks and podcasts, and actually an audiobook out on a speaker on deck at night time with the night sky above us and some shooting stars is actually quite a really nice way to spend the evening, listening to something quite exciting, and we can kind of talk about it together later. One of our favorite ones in the last crossing, Callum and I listened to The Lord of the Rings, and it's such a long book that you could just leave it on deck, and you could go for your 2-hour nap, and you'd come back out on deck, and still nothing had happened. You know, the hobbits were all still in the Shire, enjoying Bilbo's birthday. So no, we definitely will listen to music and lots of books as well.
Amazing. I hope that if you find yourself in the ocean and you're doing a full team Disney sing along, you take a short video and share it with us, because I personally would really like to see that.
Absolutely. Moana's How Far I'll Go seems really appropriate for ocean rowers as well.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So I think we're down to one final question. I know you guys have a lot to do, and you're resting up, and your families are on their way to give you sort of a final send-off. For you, Tom, the question is, and maybe in more detail, how do you stay safe in rough weather? What sort of precautions do you take as a rower and with the boat, and what can you do sort of before you go to make sure you're prepared for that situation?
So the key about the whole row is to make sure that all four of us get back to our family safely on the other side. It doesn't matter how quick we do it or how terrible it is. That's the most important thing, is that we all get back safely. So in rough weather and whenever throughout the race, we will have safety harnesses and we'll be clipped on to the boat. So if a wave was to knock someone overboard, they'd still be attached to the boat, so we can pull them back on board. If the worst was to happen and we had to leave the boat in an emergency or something, we've all trained in sea survival, and we carry a life raft as well as emergency communication equipment. So we would be able to alert rescue services and stay out the storm. But that is a last resort. We can squeeze into the sleeping cabins together and just lock the doors and wait for the storm to pass if it was terrible. But the most important thing is to remain clipped onto the boat at all times, because if you're clipped on, you're going to stay with the boat.
All right. Great. There's actually, I think these questions are just opening a whole new wave of questions, and I want to let you go. But one final question for whoever would like to answer it. I know when I do a little garden work, I get blisters on my hands. When you're doing 1.5 million rowing strokes, do you need to wear gloves or tape or something for your hands to keep yourself from getting blisters?
I'll answer that. So no gloves for us. So a few rowers may choose to do that. Personally, we choose not to. The real trouble is in the first 1 or 2 days, because that's when your hands are getting the shock of it. There's lots of different schools of thought of how to go about doing that. The more traditional way that most conventional rowers and sailors will do is just spend years building up calluses and having very leathery like hands that can take all of that. But we don't have 20 years of hard work to really invest into this. Now, the other school of thought that was actually the year before me and Hugo did it, a team of doctors did it, and they came back with no blisters, no sore hands at all, which was just to really regularly moisturize. If you get blisters and you get sores and you get cracked skin when your hands get too dry and they get like crisp, whereas if you keep them moisturizing and keep your skin soft and supple, you'll be able to do that. With regards to blisters, that's because you're working one part of your hand a bit too much. So you're constantly rubbing or working the same bit, say a bit of your finger potentially. So the way to get around that is every time we take an oar stroke and then relax back. So every time we do a recovery, we open up our hands and just use the palm of our hands just to push back gently, straighten our fingers out. So when we grip, we'll have a slightly different grip every stroke, which means hopefully we'll evenly work our hands. Now the trick is if you can keep that up and get to day 3, by that time your hands are used to it anyway. So if you haven't got a blister by day 3, it's incredibly unlikely that you're going to get one over the next 30, 35 days.
All right.
So that's how we deal with that.
Fantastic. Great tip that I'm sure many of us who have not done that much rowing have perhaps never thought about before. That's really interesting. We will have so many more questions for you over the course of the next few weeks. This has really sort of opened a box of questions that I'm sure we'll keep sort of passing along to you as you're on this journey. For example, for male rowers, is it a requirement that you have a beard? You all have the beard look going on, but we'll save that one for later. Perhaps sort of as a way of saying goodbye, Hugo, can I ask you, in the Royal Navy, is there a special way to wish somebody a great journey or a safe journey or a successful journey?
Absolutely, and we love to say this thing called "have fair winds and following seas" to any mariners who are going out, hoping to have the best weather conditions and general conditions to have a safe and successful crossing. So go for it.
All right. So on behalf of all Reach the World educators and students, as we begin this journey with you and follow you closely and cheer you on, safe winds and fair seas. Did I get that right? Fair winds, safe seas.
Fair winds and following seas. Close enough. Oh, we appreciate it.
I'm sure would be a great resource.
Oh, I love it. Thank you very much. No, appreciate
it.
you.
It's been so fantastic to talk to you all so much today. Caleb, Hugo, John, Tom, on behalf of all of us, we can't wait to follow this journey and cheer you on from afar. I hope you can feel our presence and positive vibes coming your way as you make your way west. Thank you also to our entire YouTube live stream audience for joining us today. Be sure to visit the HMS Oardacious Virtual Exchange homepage to read the first 2 articles hot off the presses, and you can follow the entire virtual exchange over the weeks to come with us. So gentlemen, enjoy your time with your families. Good luck on your final preparations. We will be following you closely. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.